ladies and gentlemen, Julio Rausseo. He is a longtime activist out of the Chicago area. He broke the video with the TSA being on the trains down there. Is almost a contributor to InfoWars, I want to say. I don't know how you break through the friggin' phone lines as often as you do, but it's great to have you with us.
Oh, thanks a lot, Mike. Thanks for having me on. Hope you guys had a good Thanksgiving.
Yeah, I spent mine with my family, oddly enough. So, uh, Julio, we were talking earlier about your documentary, Genetically Modified Society. Why don't we, get it from your perspective on what you were trying to achieve with this documentary?
Definitely. Yeah, it was on the road a couple of months in the beginning of last year, or beginning of this year, in 2013, and really, Genetically Modified Society is a look into GMOs, genetically modified organisms, and how it correlates to geoengineering, which is the modification of weather. And I've been interested in those two subjects for quite a long time, and really in doing my research and in hearing all the different buzzwords and seeing products being rolled out like drought-resistant seeds, and how that is to help curb the, quote, climate change that was happening and hurting agriculture. I really saw that the two really do correlate with one another, and I wanted to look at this further, but I wanted to do it in a way that no other journalists haven't been tackling the subject. And instead of just, going through endless amounts of documents, I wanted to go to the people who are involved with this on both sides of the spectrum, those who are for weather modification, for geoengineering, and those who are against it, those who are for GMOs, the university professors, the corporations who are for it, and interview people who are against it, and really get both of those perspectives on camera, and then really let the audience decide for themselves whether they want to live in a genetically modified society, because that's where I envision the future. The future is going to be a future where most of your food is manipulated, most of your weather will be modified, and even to the final point of human beings themselves will be genetically modified and genetically enhanced.
Absolutely, and we see that push there through different means. I mean, whether it's like you said, geoengineering and genetically modified organisms, but we even see it in the human realm with, I remember seeing a story not too long ago with, there's humans that are born, little babies that are born that now have three different people's chromosomes in it, and just this whole push
Absolutely.
towards transhumanism, but that's a whole nother topic. But so what were your findings? Like, from what I understand, you traveled the country and were going to different geoengineering conferences and stuff like that. What kind of reaction did you get out of these people, and what kind of positions were they in?
The conversations I had with the people were quite interesting. And before I go into that, you hit the nail right there with those, with the babies and being born with three different chromosomes. When I guest hosted on Through the Mirror with Larry Sinclair on Rent's radio network, I spent a whole show talking about that. And there's a company just outside where you are, near Jersey, where they actually produced around several hundred babies born with three different DNA parts: one mother, one father, and one additional DNA strand with their mother. And that's, in my eyes, the final stage of a genetically modified society. But in the conferences I went to, I wanted to go to events with people in high positions, people, whether it's the corporations or in government. So I went to a conference, one just outside of D.C., near the Pentagon. It was a USDA agriculture conference, and I was able to speak with Agriculture Secretary Tom Vilsack. And, Vilsack, former governor of Iowa, he has his ties to Monsanto. And I asked him at a press conference, it's in the film, one, whether there's any studies linking to any damages of GMOs, whether we're going to see any GMO labeling in the near future, and what his thoughts were in terms of the public wanting that. And his first response to me was that I asked a lot of questions, and I took that as a compliment at first. But he went on to say that there's no, and this is the part I found interesting, there's no, quote, reputable studies linking to damages from GMOs to conventional organic food. And again, this is the agriculture secretary. He was appointed by Obama, and so he's basically speaking for the president. This is the president's position that there's no studies linking to any GMO damages. So from that instance, you can basically say that the government is pro-GMO. They don't see anything wrong with that. That ties into, I spoke to go ahead, Mike.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Moses. I heard you go.
Oh, no, I was going to say that core, no, sorry.
Moses?
I really didn't say anything.
All right, my bad. Keep going.
Oh, okay. Okay, my apologies. All right, so so again, the government position that there's no studies linking to any harm with GMOs. I attended a conference back in January, and Mike, that's when I told you at the beginning of what I wanted to do with this documentary. There was a diplomat from the United Nations, and he was an African diplomat, and he was telling me the wonders of drought-resistant seeds, which has been developed by Monsanto, Cargill, Dow AgroScience, and so forth. Drought-resistant seeds are GMO seeds. And so he said it's wonderful to introduce this to third world countries to help feed poor populations. So you have the government and along with NGOs seeing GMOs as a way to feed world populations, feed the hunger.
So what do you think about that? Like, do you think there are useful applications for the technology? Because, like, same thing with, as I mentioned earlier, transhumanism. I think that there are useful applications for these different technologies and these different things, but it's just a shame that they're in the hands of the people that they're in. You know what I mean? Like, the government is using it to centralize control through Monsanto and things like that. And Monsanto is got a long history of being very corrupt and not looking out for people's rights or even their safety. And so I think it's a shame that they have the monopoly on it. But, is that actually a possibility that if it was done through an ethical business venture, that it could help third world countries?
And that was a question posed by Dr. Joel Gruber, who I interviewed, and he was featured in the beginning of the documentary. His position is he sees the dangers of GMO foods and he sees the dangers within the biotech industry, yet he sees good applications for the technology of biotechnology or of being able to produce foods at a quicker level. And that's the thing with these multinational corporations and their money, their influence. Their influence is their money. You saw with Prop 37 in California, the recent votes in Washington State, the recent push in Vermont and other states for GMO labeling. These corporations are spending millions and millions of dollars because they know if there is a GMO label, their product isn't going to be worth anything. They're going to lose billions of dollars, not millions of dollars. They're willing to spend millions to save billions. And,
so how do you feel about the concept of GMO labeling? Because I know a lot of people in the libertarian community are opposed to the idea because it's we're trying to get the government to force on private businesses what's on their labels and it's an overreach of government and all this kind of stuff. And while I agree with the sentiment, I think the argument loses credibility when you consider that they're already receiving subsidies. They're already not private enterprise anymore. They're government-sponsored enterprise. And when you're receiving subsidies from the government, that is, and we all know the nature of inflation and printing and stuff like that, but on paper, when you're receiving subsidies that are given to you from taxpayer money, I think that gives the taxpayers a say in what should be run. Because why else would that business be thriving if it weren't for the advantage of these subsidies? No other private business is getting that. So I think we do have a say. But what is your take on that?
Well, absolutely. And that's funny you mentioned subsidies. I put this in the film. There's a congressman from Kansas, Tim Huelskamp. He was actually elected in that initial Tea Party wave of 2010. He told me in the film when I interviewed him that, GMOs are perfectly fine. He himself is a GMO farmer, and his family farm out in Kansas. I did the research, and he's getting government subsidies. He's getting our taxpayer dollar, a congressman, to handle a GMO farm. So you're right, Mike. We absolutely have a say in this. My position on GMO labeling is this. If we have a GMO labeling, then we are kind of accepting the concept and the technology of GMOs. A label is just letting us know to avoid that particular product. So really my position is whether or not we should utilize this technology or not. Never mind the labels, even though I think the labels is a great idea. Let's have a debate, a large debate, a real debate on the use of this technology. Should we use this, or if we do want to help feed populations, if we want to help feed the homeless in the country, we need to look at, say, like, aquaponics, right? Why not look at aquaponics instead of biotechnology? We need to have that debate, because if we have a labeling debate, it's going to be susceptible to the mass lobbying campaigns we've already seen in different
Absolutely. And
states.
for that debate, I remember about a month ago, I saw that Dr. McCullough, and I'm drawing a blank on the guy's name, but he's very popular. He was on Food Inc. and a couple other food-related documentaries that he was a private farmer who opposes, genetically modified organisms and using them on his farm. God, I wish I could remember his name. If you look up Food Inc., it'll definitely come up. But they had a debate and had that out. But I'm pretty sure Jamie had a question here.
Well, actually, I just kind of wanted to interject with it is, we're talking about the labeling and whatnot. There's really an easy free market solution to that is there's apps. Like I have an app on my phone right now called Boycott. And this was given to me by, it was through the March Against Monsanto when it came up. And it's people that vote on certain bills that you choose not to agree with. You just scan the barcode on anything that you buy, and it comes up and it tells you right now, like, this has GMO in it, or these people supported the campaign, or their parent company supported the campaign, so you should probably avoid them.
So, all right, Julio, we're coming up into the break in about 2 minutes. So before we get to the break, what was the attitude coming from these people? Like, were they entertaining your ideas that maybe this isn't a good idea, or were they just completely arrogant and saying, oh, well, this is for your own good?
It was mainly an arrogance, this is for your own good. I could tell Tom Vilsack was pretty agitated with my line of questioning. I interviewed a Monsanto-funded professor from University of California, Davis, and he came from the position of that this is necessary. We need to do genetically modified organisms. It's the only way to feed populations. So it was a mixture of we need to do this technology, and then the people who I didn't interview were adamant that we need to get rid of this technology.
So.
It's a hard argument to have because, you look at what had happened in the greater part of the world going back, you got to look at the history of it, like 70, 50, 100 years ago when most of the greater part of the Western world was going through their agricultural revolution, and then that moved into the Industrial Revolution, which ended up making the medical revolution. And it was like three things. It was three phases. Carol Quigley talks about this a lot, and this is something that a lot of these scientists probably learned going to school, because a lot of professors have this sentiment. The greater part of the third world never had the agricultural revolution, and that's a big problem because they had the Industrial Revolution, but now they have no way to feed the people that they need for the manufacturers. And then they had the medical revolution where they're living much longer, but they're also starving to death. And America does produce, I think it's like a third of the world's food. So, it's our only export.
All right, we're up against the break, and we're going to be right back on the other side to tackle the geoengineering aspect. Every other one that I said I'm faithful, every other one red and white metal.
In 1997, a high school shooting was stopped by a vice principal with a gun. In 1998, a middle school shooting was ended by a neighbor with a gun. In 2002, a terrorist attack was stopped by a school guard and a teacher with a gun. After September 11th, pilots began carrying guns to protect their passengers. Let's give our schools and teachers the same option. Sign the petition at defendschools.com.
Hi, I'm Trevor Moore. Due to the recent revelations that in order to fight terrorism, the NSA has been using a secret court order to spy on every single Verizon and AT&T customer, Americans have become outraged and concerned about their rights to privacy. But along with that concern comes a feeling of hopelessness. What can we do? Vote in new leaders? Well, the problem is that during an election, each candidate pretends to not be an asshole. Then when they get the job, they reveal that they've actually been a complete asshole this entire time. No, elections are of no use. The only way to fight back against our country's excessive wiretapping and data mining is to make it irrelevant. That's why we're launching Operation Everyone Talk Like a Terrorist all the time. If we all openly discuss terrorist plots in each of our phone conversations, then eavesdropping on those phone conversations becomes pointless. It's simple. We just need to work it into our daily vernacular. For example, instead of saying, "I love you," you could describe a terror attack. The larger the scale, the more you love the person.
Hi, Mom. I just got out of school. Can you pick me up?
I'll be there in 15 minutes. I'm gonna use a truck bomb to blow up the Brooklyn Bridge.
I'm yelling anthrax to Pierce to Morgan.
Or nonsense about God's will being great could mean affirmative.
Hey man, they have a 7:30 show, and do you think you can make it in time?
God is merciful and his love is unchanging. Did you already get me a ticket?
And those are just a few examples. You can make up your own. Have fun with it. But it's time for us to stand up and protect our rights. Because those assholes aren't going to.
Obamacare. Fun. Cool. YOLO. At Obamacare, we believe in saying the words affordable health care so that young people will love us and sign up like lemmings. Sure, you pay 2.5% of your income in penalties, but young people don't have to worry about that because you don't have a job. Work sucks. That's why we at Obamacare want to trade your full-time job for a part-time one. So you'll have more time for fun things, like watching millionaire celebrities tweet about how affordable we are. Obamacare. Just like guys enjoy premium leather seats, so too you'll enjoy paying triple the healthcare premiums out of your new part-time salary. Speaking of guys, ever been on a mandate before? At Obamacare, we're full of mandates. But don't worry, big corporations get exempt, so you don't have to. It's fun paying for things you don't even use. Yeah, you work out, stay healthy. But come on, brah. Someone's got to pay for people who smoke, drink 85-ounce sodas, and live in a Barcalounger. So enjoy your premium hikes, young people of America, because everyone loves hikes. Obamacare. If millionaire celebrities can afford us, why can't you? A message from the White House Office of Obamacare. Propaganda to get young people to love us and sign up like lemmings.
Tired of living in a violent society? If every citizen was armed, no one would be dumb enough to shoot people. It's exactly the ethos our founding fathers had when they wrote the Constitution and then changed it, which is what makes it sacred now. Come mingle with safety-minded people like you at the Liberty City Gun Club. Our nation is still the world leader in one thing: armaments. Nothing says excitement like a night out with a small caliber semi-automatic weapon. Get social at the Liberty City Gun Club.
Hi, I'm Steve.
I'm Irene. I'm Lisa.
My name is Tom. I'm a graphic designer,
College freshman, stay-at-home mom with a full-time job,
scholar on social policy, and a barista.
And I'm just like you.
I'm an Obama supporter.
I support President Obama.
But the president needs your help.
Our president can't launch into another war without you. And remember, we promise to support him no matter what.
Together, we can do it.
That's why we here at the Americans for Whatever Barack Obama Wants, Did You Know He's Friends with Jay-Z, have launched a Kickstarter campaign to fund World War III.
And America is dead-ass broke, so our goal is to raise $1.6 trillion on behalf of the U.S. government.
That's where you come in.
Even a small donation would make all the difference.
When I first saw the president speak in 2008, in a YouTube clip posted to my Facebook page, I knew he was going to be right all the time. So I support World War III and IV and any moon war the president may want to start.
I mean, there is no way that he or the cabal of corporate interests, spy agencies, and shadow bankers that tell him what to do would ever mislead us. A $25 donation will get you a piece of rubble from a war-torn Middle Eastern country kissed by Senator Lindsey Graham.
A $100 donation gets you a day pass to leave your local refugee camp.
You'll probably end up in a refugee camp, but it'll have free Wi-Fi.
So please, help us reach our goal of $1.6 trillion so we can make World War III a reality. Why? Because Obama.
Because Obama.
Thanks for listening to FPRN. Don't forget to check us out on Facebook and Twitter. If you'd like to start your own show with FPRN, advertise with us, or donate to the network or to your favorite shows, check out our website at www.fprnradio.com.
You walk into this room at your own risk, because it leads to the future. Not a future that will be, but one that might be. This is not a new world. It is simply an extension of what began in the old one. It has patterned itself after every dictator who has ever planted the ripping imprint of a boot on the pages of history since the beginning of time. It has refinements, technological advances, and a more sophisticated approach to the destruction of human freedom. But like every one of the superstates that preceded it, it has one iron rule. Logic is an enemy and truth is a menace. Any state, any entity, any ideology that fails to recognize the worth, the dignity, the rights of man, that state is obsolete.
Capstone of the pyramid, heritage of secrecy. Heresy considered heretics to question it. Misinformation in the age of mental pestilence.
That is Moses Flows bringing it in. We are still live with Julio Rausseo, activist, documentary filmmaker, radio show host, all around awesome person. Now, Jamie, you were making a point that I wanted to let you wrap up and we could get Julio's response to it. But you were talking about how Carol Quigley was talking about how a lot of these third world countries haven't had their agricultural revolution, and that's relevant to what we're talking about with genetically modified organisms. But if you want to just take it from where you were before the break.
Yeah. No, Carol Quigley, I mean, for anybody that's not familiar, he wrote a book back, I believe it was like the 40s, called Tragedy and Hope, and I'm starting to read through it a little bit. It's really hard to read, but he really outlines a unique perspective on this, and it's that, you know, the Western world really influenced a lot of other culture throughout the rest of the world when we had our Industrial Revolution. And we were very advanced at that point because we had already gone through the agricultural revolution that you need to set up to have an Industrial Revolution that the rest of the world didn't have. And they were playing catch up, basically. And it's why it's resulted in a lot of really big issues for third world countries. It made third world countries what they are today, from the result of, you know, Western influence. And I just wanted to get Julio's take on that.
No, I agree. I definitely agree. And you see just the sheer influence that these non-governmental organizations have in the third world countries, and really stripping them of all their resources and really making them dependent on outside food and unable to spring up that agricultural revolution. It's really heartbreaking. In a sick way, you can tip your cap to the elite in their plan, because their plan has really worked in that aspect. But you know, if here in the U.S. can shape the landscape and trying to encourage more of an agricultural revolution, the whole world will greatly benefit.
Agreed. So moving forward, you talked about the genetically modified organisms and some of your findings with that. Now, how about the geoengineering aspect of it? Because that's what's interesting. That's really interesting to me, because the genetically modified organism conversation is pretty widespread. We all understand that, you know, this is causing tumors in rats and it's bad for our health and it's causing all kinds of problems, especially in the poor communities. Now, the geoengineering thing, that for whatever reason is a really hard pill for a lot of people to swallow. You know, people who are 9/11 truthers will turn around and say, you're crazy for talking about quote unquote chemtrails. So what is your findings with the whole geoengineering aspect of things?
Yeah, you know, so people are quick to point fingers at you when you use that terminology, chemtrails. And one of the things I wanted to do in the film was try to break from using that chemtrail verbiage. Instead, you know, find out through the documents what it is, the terminology they use, and use that term. And from there, you'll get people to speak with you. You'll get people to spring information to you. You know, I spoke on a conference call with Mark Levy. He's a member of the Council on Foreign Relations. He's a part of their science division. And there was a conference call about climate change. So I called this conference call. It's in Genetically Modified Society. And I asked about geoengineering and whether or not And again, the CFR, Hillary Clinton, said she was so thankful that the CFR is right by her building, that she is able to get her directions from them. I'm elaborating on what she said, but the CFR and the White House are hip and hip. CFR, those type of committees have a lot of sway in policies that take place in D.C. So Mark Levy, I posed the question about geoengineering, whether or not that should be an option to look into to help stop climate change, and whether or not the administration, the Obama White House, would openly support this. He tells me that geoengineering is being looked at from foundations like the National Academy of Sciences, which is having a conference later this month in December down in Irvine, California, on geoengineering. But he said the National Academy of Sciences, they're spearheading geoengineering research. And then he said that the president, while he endorses geoengineering, would never publicly endorse geoengineering. So his surrogates and groups like National Academy of Sciences would lead the charge on geoengineering. Now,
So
I spoke. This is in the. You go ahead, Mike.
I'm sorry, continue your point.
Oh, no, but go ahead, ask the question.
So I guess a real straight to the point question for people who are on the fence about this debate or skeptics on this debate is, in your research and in your experience, are they doing this engineering that is commonly referred to as chemtrails?
They're doing we can call it chemtrails, but what they're really doing is called solar radiation management and cloud seeding. Now, cloud seeding, that's generally done through weather modification, the spraying of silver iodide. Solar radiation management is far worse, spraying sulfur dioxide, sulfur and other particles into the atmosphere to block the sun's rays. Now, I'm definitely seeing more solar radiation management happening now, but yes, Mike, to answer your question, I was told at a weather modification conference that a government organization is permitting all these type of activities, from cloud seeding to solar radiation management. So yes, this is happening, and it is being funded by the millions.
Well, yeah.
Hey, Julio, I had a question for you. Could you go into a little bit of detail in your documentary how about you came to get this information? The way you had actually infiltrated their meetings and whatnot. Just because I think it drives home for people the reality of this.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Doing an investigative documentary, I had to do, being a broadcasting major, learning the tricks of the trade, I knew I had to approach this in a different style than the confrontation mode. I knew I had to, stroke their egos a bit to be able to get the type of information I wanted. So, for example, Sheldon Whitehouse, U.S. Senator, he's featured in the film. I asked him point blank about geoengineering and cloud seeding, and he was pretty open with me. I was nice and courteous, and he opened up that, yes, Congress has looked into geoengineering programs, or going to a weather modification conference. All I basically did was call this particular weather modification group, told them who I was, told them I'm with X media organization, and they got me a media credential, and I was able to sit in a weather mod conference for 2 days and 16 hours of lectures, and got to hear from these people what it is they're actually doing, or getting to talk with the director of National Weather Service, that's featured in Genetically Modified Society, and I get him to basically lie in a large auditorium that the government has no knowledge of weather modification programs and that it's not happening now. So it's really just hard research and being able to just contact these organizations and be friendly, be open, and just if you're very friendly, if you don't want to stroke their egos, but if you want to get the information in an investigative level, you kind of have to do so knowing that the outcome you're looking to achieve is something that they don't know about, and if they don't know about it, they're loose lips sink ships. They're going to tell you information that they wouldn't tell you if you were confrontational with them.
Yeah, and
I definitely find the most interesting aspect of your documentary of how you went about doing it was actually learning their lingo and figuring out how to get this information. One of them being, I think we referenced a little while ago, but what is the actual term amongst the insiders Is it cloud seeding as opposed to chemtrails? Knowing that if you had brought up chemtrails to them, they kind of know you're an outsider at that point.
Correct. Like I don't think I featured this in the film. I didn't have time to, but at this weather modification conference in San Antonio, I asked this guy from the Texas Weather Modification Group, how do you engage with the public? And this guy said, we want to talk to the public, but we don't want to say chemtrails. We don't want to think that we're doing anything wrong. So if you use the word chemtrails, they immediately think you're a kook or a conspiracy theorist. So yes, cloud seeding is a definite terminology they use. Also, solar radiation management. Those two, along with carbon capturing, climate engineering, those are all official terminologies that if you type it into Google, if you type it into startpage.com, you're going to get a plethora of PDF documents from universities, NGOs to governments. It's all about the proper terminology. And, cloud seeding, solar radiation management, carbon capturing, carbon sequestration. I can go on and on.
And it doesn't. What I don't get is how the Navy actually, the government itself denies that this is going on, because it takes 30 seconds on Navy.mil running through some old stories that you can find right here. NAVFAC Southwest awards $4.5 million contract for geotechnical engineering service. Like, it's not. It's constantly coming out. I mean, the Navy admits that there is some practice going on with weather modification. I mean, they have a department for it.
And that's what I'm working on now. I submitted Genetically Modified Society for the Alex Jones InfoWar contest, so I didn't have the time or the money to finish tackling the National Weather Service. This man lied twice. I got him on camera twice asking the same question about weather mod, and he says he has no idea this is going on. I mentioned it in this film. Is the director of National Weather Service completely oblivious to what's going on underneath his nose with weather modification and geoengineering, or is he hiding something different? And that's what I'm working on now, is to pinpoint who is doing this. You spoke about the Navy, the National Academy on Sciences Conference on Geoengineering. Their last one back in October had a Navy admiral at that conference talking about geoengineering. What's the Navy's position on geoengineering? Why are they attending a conference on geoengineering? What's the Navy's position on this? As I said,
well, they got caught just last year, I believe. It was either last year or 2 years ago, and I think it was outlined in either What in the World Are We Spraying or Why in the World Are They Spraying. There's been a program going on it's southeast of Japan. I guess what was the Philippines area? Anyway, there's clear weather modification. I mean, you can look at like satellite imagery of like grids of trails just going over top of giant masses of land, and it's being done by the American military. That they admit that that's what they're doing there.
So we've actually got a caller on the line. Caller, how's it going? You got a question for Julio or about GMOs or weather modification?
Hi, this is Emberly.
Hello, Emberly.
Hey, we had talked about me coming on to discuss my cancer diagnosis and my alternative treatments.
Absolutely. We'll come back to you after 8 o'clock if you want to talk about that while we wrap up our interview.
Okay, well, can you give me, maybe I'll come on next Sunday because I'm actually going to be on another radio show at 8 o'clock.
Absolutely. You can call in anytime.
Okay, thanks.
So, Julio.
Yes.
So one thing that I find interesting about this whole thing is, you talked about that you had caught these people in lies about weather modification and all that kind of thing. And one thing that you relayed to me that makes a lot of sense as to why they would lie is that weather modification can be profitable for you if you're in the right circles, right?
Absolutely, Mike. I'm glad you brought that up. It's fascinating. Weather derivatives is basically betting on the weather. You can go here in Chicago. We got the Chicago Mercantile Exchange, and you can, if you know the right people and you know the right information, you can bet you can bet on snowstorms, you can bet on rainstorms, I was even told off record by a farmer from South Dakota that you can even bet at a 12 by 12 radius on weather derivatives as to where a weather event's going to take place. So this is very, very profitable. It could be very profitable for, let's say, the insurance industry, very profitable for government, very profitable for businesses as well. If they see that a storm's coming that could hinder their business, they can take out a weather insurance, a weather derivative, and hedge their bets.
That's amazing. So it
gets even crazier, Mike, because at this event I was at where I spoke to the director of National Weather Service, a weatherman from Chicago named Tom Skilling was there. Tom Skilling's a very popular weather TV man in Chicago. He's been on TV for about 35 years. His brother is a guy named Jeffrey Skilling. You can look him up. Jeff Skilling was a part of this little old company out in Houston, Texas called Enron. I'm sure you heard of Enron.
Oh, absolutely.
Well, at Enron, he started the first weather derivatives trading scheme. And it was with him, along with Al Gore and others, who helped create this carbon-type market. They were the first to introduce weather derivatives. Now, Skilling's in jail currently, and there's articles where the Attorney General, Eric Holder, our wonderful AG, may pardon Jeffrey Skilling. And now that doesn't surprise me, because President Obama is a part of the Chicago Carbon Exchange, along with Al Gore and others, getting set to make it billions of dollars. So what does a man who created weather derivatives, how does he have the advantage? Well, it's quite easy. His brother, a weatherman who's on the board of the American Meteorological Society, who have meetings on weather modification. If you have that inside knowledge, you're gold. It's the golden ticket.
Yeah, it's a form of insider trading. So we've got 7 minutes before the break, and so 7 minutes before we finish up. So the last question I got for you to go on is, so we've uncovered some of the GMO stuff from the horse's mouth. We've uncovered some of the geoengineering stuff from the horse's mouth. Now, what is the link? What is the conclusions that you've drawn between how the two are linked and coincide with each other?
There was an Air Force document, Owning the Weather in 2025, that came out in August of 1996 in a series of white papers. And in that document, it talks about how the advantages of weather modification, and one of them was to induce drought. And that's something that always caught my eye. Now, when you introduce the concept of drought-resistant seeds from companies like Monsanto that will grow, corn or soybeans, even in drought conditions, and then that there are weather modification programs, for example, in Kansas, in a document they admit their weather modification practices actually induced the drought of 2012, the drought of last year that really hurt the agriculture industry. You can tell that the two intertwine. Without the two, these multinational corporations aren't going to make billions and billions of dollars. So they have to create it's problem, reaction, solution. They create the problem. They have the solution. We have a reaction, and they give us a solution.
Yeah, it was funny. You had said that they would be interested in using weather modification or geoengineering to stop weather modification, which I just think it's funny. We're going to do artificial weather modification to stop weather modification. You know what I mean? Just like inflating more money and throwing that at problems is going to fix the debt problem. You know what I mean? But keep going.
I'm glad you brought that up. That's not me saying it. That's not Mike saying this. This is like the National Public Radio, NPR. This is Princeton University. This is Harvard University. This is the United Nations. They're saying, we need to manipulate the weather to stop you humans who are causing climate change. I mean, that if you wrap that around your head and you think about that, it doesn't make sense. Why would you do that? Yet they're doing it anyways. They're doing both of these programs, GMOs, geoengineering, and even the modification of humans without our consent, for the most part, without our knowledge. And it's going to come to a point when we can't even stop this technology from taking place because it's already here and it's already going to, in some people's thoughts, manage our lives. So we're really at the precipice here. We're really at a potential point of no return where we need to have this discussion. Do you want to be a part of genetically modified society? Do you want, your children's future and their children's future to be a part of this, where their entire human genome is going to be mapped out, all their food is going to be manipulated, their weather is going to be manipulated. You won't even get a chance to enjoy the beaches. You won't even get to do anything because of a self-fulfilling prophecy that Agenda 21 and the elites have brought forward for us.
Yeah, and it's crazy to think that there's that much power, and it's really scary. And I think that's a lot of why the government really does put so much time and effort into not admitting that this is going on. Because if you're performing speculations that our own military caused the drought that sent farmers under and foreclosed on so many places in the Midwest, and created such a food spike issue in prices across the country and across the world, honestly. I mean, we export food everywhere. That's some heavy stuff.
Absolutely. When I first got into these subjects, I didn't want to believe it, but the more reading and the more lectures I heard, it's unfortunate that we've come to this point. But they're even introducing this to the mass public already. There's a show on Fox called Almost Human, and that's about android type people, police officers in the future who are modified humans. Or there was a movie that came out in 2005 called The Island with Ewan McGregor, played Obi-Wan Kenobi, right, in the Star Wars series, the latest one. That talks about clone technology and how the elites, their new health insurance policy is a clone. So you're, a double Mike Heiss, your clone will give you your new kidney. Or there's a movie called Splice where they mix human DNA into an animal gene and create a monster. Oh, but it's for research. It's to save cancer. It's to help the world population.
It's for your own good. Where have we heard that before? But we've got 2 minutes before the break, so I don't want to give too much away. But me and you, Julio, we've talked, and for our audience, it's looking like it's hoping that we're going to see a lot more Julio here with the Big Plantation with FPRN. But I want to give you this chance in the last 2 minutes to plug anything that you got in the pipeline. Where can people find your work? I know your documentary is up on the YouTube channel Dutch Sense, which anybody who's interested in geoengineering should check that channel out.
Yeah, absolutely. You can follow me on Twitter at JNReports. That's JN Reports. You can watch the documentary. It's on YouTube. It's up on a whole bunch of different websites, which is very cool. So I'm thankful for that. And a whole bunch of people uploaded the video on their own YouTube channel. So that's very thoughtful of them, and I'm thankful for that. I'm going to try to do a fundraiser, in the coming weeks to finish this documentary. To put the final pieces together and actually give a real good, hard-hitting documentary for the public. So be on the lookout for that, and be on the lookout while Big Plantation and stuff in the future. But just follow me on Twitter, JN Reports, to keep up with me and my work.
Well, you definitely have our support on that documentary, and we'll be helping you to promote it and promote your efforts. So thanks a lot for coming on. We're coming up against the break here. Any last words?
No, thanks for having me on. Take care, guys. Keep kicking ass.
We will do. So we are going to be back with more news live on the Big Plantation. Thanks for joining us, everybody.
And then we're going to clone my...
Mr. President, members of Congress, you've been making a lot of noise about taking our guns away. But you might want to review history. 1835, Gonzales, Texas Territory. The authorities wanted to confiscate the big gun that protected that colony. You know what the people said? Come and take it. Because they were willing to fight for their freedom and their guns. So are we.
Come and take it if you want it. Come and take it if you think you can. Come and take it, but I warn you, you'll have to pry it from my cold dead hands. We want the freedom that God gave us, so you best not cross that line. If you want this gun, you gotta come through us and take it.
One shot at a time. Just like Gonzalez, we're keeping our guns.
At Damari Nolo Outfitters, we view the outdoors as our home, not a harsh wilderness. Our gear is chosen for adventure, not just in our backyard, but in the vast expanse of our amazing planet. Damari Nolo Outfitters carries the essential gear and tools you will need to live the empowering mindset of self-reliance. Our products are chosen especially for their durability and quality and are carefully tested by our staff and associates. Our promise to you is we never offer any item for sale we don't use ourselves, so we can offer only what we know to be the best. Our online store makes it simple to browse through our high-quality lines of clothing, knives, tools, load carry gear, and accessories. We are committed to offering you the best American-made equipment on the market, a promise you'll see as we continually add new products. For more information about our products and blog posts to help you learn more about self-reliance and equipment, please visit www.damarinolo.com. That's DOMARI-NOLO.com. Damari Nolo, chosen for survival and adventure.
In every age, a technology is created that upends the foundations of society. The wheel, the printing press, the internet. Now, in a world sliding into financial chaos, a new technology is changing the way monetary systems work around the world. It is called Bitcoin. Bitcoin is a new form of money, controlled not by banks, governments, or corporations, but through mutual commerce between free individuals. To learn more, visit weusecoins.com.
Now I'm covered.
Now, for the first time, you can be covered. If you've been waiting to be covered in mandates, regulations, and new fees, the time is finally here. Sort of. So make some coffee.
I'm covered.
Approach life with reckless abandon. Kick your feet up.
I'm covered.
Because you're going to be in the waiting room for quite a while. But don't you worry your pretty little head off. First of all, it wouldn't be covered.
We're covered.
No, I said it would not be covered.
Now we're covered.
No, that's not... Yeah, I don't think you understood what I meant by covered earlier. It was a little bit ironic. Healthcare.gov is not responsible for fulfilling any of the expectations, mandates, legal requirements, hopes, or dreams of any users. Results may vary. Consult your Obamacare-approved doctor or pharmacist to find out if Obamacare is right for you. Current waiting lists to have your doctor chosen for you are unavailable and will remain so for the foreseeable future. Obamacare may cause wait times, a decline in healthcare quality, money loss, political activism, anger, despair, hopelessness, frustration, European envy, dependence, and nausea. If you discover that your premiums have gone up as a result of Obamacare, please note that the program is working as intended and refrain from complaining. Call your doctor if you experience anxiety for longer than 4 hours. If you wish to opt out of Obamacare for any reason, please start a multi-million-dollar business, join a union, or run for Congress.
You have reached the 911 emergency service. All operators are busy.
Oh God, please help me. You've got a knife.
You have reached the 911 emergency service. All operators are busy. Stay on the line for the next available emergency operator. You have reached the 911 emergency service. All operators are busy. Please stay on...
911 operator, what's your emergency, please? Hello? Hello? Hello?
Last year in the United States, thousands and thousands of 911 calls went unanswered. And if you call from a cell phone, there's no way to pinpoint where you are. Yet politicians like Dianne Feinstein call for more gun control. We have one question. Why do these politicians have armed bodyguards? Can't they just call 911?
Thanks for listening to FPRN. Don't forget to check us out on Facebook and Twitter. If you'd like to start your own show with FPRN, advertise with us, or donate to the network or to your favorite shows, check out our website at www.fprnradio.com.